Fionna and Cake has given us some gut-wrenching episodes, and personally, I can't help but feel sorry for poor Simon Petrikov. In episode 4, it is revealed that Simon has been given enormous credit for something that he had no control over whatsoever. The Fionna and Cake stories he is so famous for were simply beamed into his head by Prismo, but Fionna and Cake is just one of many books that gives us a better understanding of Simon's life. I think part of the reason he's so sympathetic is the careful amount of detail invested into portraying a character who feels real and complex. His book collection is an example of this. No detail is insignificant. The first scene featuring the current version of Simon Petrikov gives us a glimpse of a bookshelf with a self-help book called Seeing the Good, a non-fiction book called Dusty Mechanics, and a book simply entitled Wizard. This simple shot gives us in one frame a solid encapsulation of who Simon is now. He's trying out a book called Seeing the Good in an attempt to battle his depression. The book Wizard tells us that, since being cured of the Ice King curse, Simon has retained an interest in magic. Finally, Dusty Mechanics is the perfect title. It encapsulates two things. Firstly, Simon is still pursuing his intellectual interests. When Betty was still alive, they shared a passion for academic and intellectual pursuits. But the word dusty implies something that is lifeless and uninspiring. A symptom related to depression known as anhedonia, or the inability to feel pleasure, would explain why Simon's lifelong passion has become a dusty relic, something he pursues out of habit. Just a brief note for context, an article in Psychology Today states that anhedonia is one of the worst feelings you can have, in my opinion. You cannot find meaning with anything in life, which inhibits motivation and spurs depression. Again, Simon has been reading self-help for a reason, and we can see familiar details connected with the condition scattered across Simon's home, the use of positive phrases known as affirmations plastered across his apartment being a clear example of his attempts to raise his mood. So we can see Simon is honestly trying to battle his depression with books with positive phrases all over his apartment, but his attempts have failed. Towards the beginning of episode 2, after a tense and miserable morning at work, Simon heads to the bar where Dirtbig Guy, TV, and even Finn start talking to him about how great his Fionna and Cake book series was. His claim he didn't write the books is knowingly reinterpreted by Dirtbig Guy as an impressive achievement, writing them in a fugue state. And then in episode 4, we get the big reveal. It is incredibly ironic learning that Simon was an entirely unwilling participant in the creation of the Fionna and Cake world. None of this is helped by Prismo treating Simon like a tool or an object, a storage unit for the universe he created. In a way, the Fionna and Cake book series serves as a physical metaphor for Simon's mistreatment by people and circumstances beyond his control. Okay, let's take a step back. Despite his depression, Simon has kept himself busy. He's got at least 12 notebooks full of notes, and let's not forget that in episode 2, when Astrid fangirls about F and C, Simon shows her Ancient Artifacts by S. Petrikov, his enormous academic treatise, which realistically Astrid would be too young to understand. So many S's in that sentence. However, this work does not bring him pleasure. That's the effect of the anhedonia we discussed earlier. The final book we know of in Simon's collection is the Enchiridion, the book of heroes famous throughout the land of U. The Enchiridion is part of the little shrine Simon built to Golb as part of his attempt to bring back Betty. In episodes 2 and 3, getting back Betty was Simon's purpose, but all his efforts there failed. Rewatching episode 2 of Fionna and Cake in particular, I found myself impressed with the amount of detail the show's creators put into fleshing out a concrete book selection that tells us a lot about the bookish Simon Petrikov. Before the apocalypse, Simon was a respectable academic, but the academic circles he was part of have ceased to exist. Betty is his last link to that past life. Books and writing have always been important to him, but that passion is misunderstood by everyone around him. What his friends and fans understand is what they find familiar. Ice King's over-the-top stories about a world that is a dramatic mirror to their own. Ironically, with books like Wizard and the Enchiridion in his collection, Simon is clearly choosing to be more like the Ice King than he would admit, voluntarily leaping back into that world of wizardry and magic. With that in mind, his decision to try to be the Ice King once again is perhaps understandable. With 6 episodes left in Fionna and Cake, I'm interested to see where Simon will end up by the series finale. I'm hoping the ending isn't too tragic. Simon deserves a break. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything or if you have your own theories about where the story is headed. If you enjoyed the video, you can help the channel by liking and subscribing. Thank you to those of you who've subscribed already. Have a great week and thank you for watching.